It started as an ordinary Tuesday morning. I woke up to the familiar hum of my alarm clock and the sound of my neighbour's dog barking incessantly. As I stumbled out of bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was the news cycle. Every channel blared about strange occurrences around the globe. Unexplained lights in the sky, mass animal die-offs, and inexplicable disappearances had become the norm. At breakfast, my roommate Sam scrolled through his phone, eyebrows furrowing deeper with each passing moment. "You seeing this?" he asked, nudging my cereal bowl aside to show me a video. It was shaky footage of bright lights moving erratically over a suburban neighbourhood. "This is happening everywhere," he said, his voice laced with disbelief. "I don't know, man. It could just be drones or something," I replied, trying to downplay his rising panic. But as the week went on, the reports grew more alarming. News articles emerged about government officials holding secret meetings, residents across the country reporting strange sightings, and whispers about military exercises aimed at unknown threats. I thought it was just sensationalism, but Sam was glued to his phone, scrolling through endless threads on forums dedicated to the bizarre. "People are saying it's aliens," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Come on," I chuckled, though a chill crept down my spine. "Aliens? That's the best they can come up with." Still, I couldn't ignore the tension in the air. It felt as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Then, late one night, as I was flipping through channels, I landed on a late-night talk show. The host was interviewing a former government official, a man with a greying beard and weary eyes. "Why did you leave your position?" the host asked, his tone serious. The man hesitated, glancing around as if he feared being overheard. "Because I learned things that shouldn't be hidden. We are not alone, and the government knows it." He paused, the audience hanging on his every word. "In 30 days, we might not have a planet to call home." I sat up straight, heart pounding. He continued, "They're planning something. I can't say more. I just hope it's not too late." The screen cut to a commercial, and I was left with an eerie sense of dread. I turned to Sam, who had been listening intently. "Did you hear that?" I asked. "Yeah," he replied, his voice trembling. "We need to find out more." The next few days were a blur of frantic research. We combed through online forums, conspiracy theory websites, and even deep web sources, piecing together information. Whispers of government cover-ups and classified documents surfaced, detailing encounters with unidentified flying objects and alleged treaties made with extraterrestrial beings. It was during this research that we stumbled upon a particularly chilling thread. It claimed that there was a plan in motion, one that involved the takeover of Earth by alien forces. The timeline was alarming. 30 days. "What do you think?" Sam asked, his face pale. "I think it's crazy," I said, though a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. But we can't just ignore it. We decided to dig deeper. Armed with a laptop, we contacted anonymous whistleblowers, scoured classified documents, and even attempted to reach out to those who claimed to have experienced abductions. Each lead brought us closer to a web of conspiracies that both terrified and fascinated us. One night we received a message from someone calling themselves the Oracle. The email was cryptic, warning us of imminent danger and instructing us to meet at an abandoned military base just outside the city. "Trust no one," it read. "Time is running out." The following evening, we found ourselves parked outside the decaying structure of the base. Vines crawled up the sides of the building, and shattered windows stared back at us like vacant eyes. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow over the ground, and I could feel my heart racing. "Do you think this is a bad idea?" I asked, hesitation creeping into my voice. "We're already in this deep," Sam replied, determination flickering in his eyes. We have to know the truth. As we stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. Dust motes danced in the pale light, and the air felt charged with an unsettling energy. We navigated through the hallways, echoes of our footsteps the only sound breaking the heavy silence. In a dimly lit room, we found a figure cloaked in shadows. "You came," they said, voice low and resonant. "I've been waiting." "What do you know?" I asked, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "The government is hiding the truth," the figure said. "In 30 days, they will come for us. They've made a deal, and we are the bargaining chips." I exchanged a glance with Sam, who looked as shocked as I felt. "Who are they?" he asked. "Entities beyond your comprehension," the figure replied. "They seek to take over, to use us as vessels. The time is near. You must prepare." "Prepare for what?" I pressed. The figure stepped forward, and the shadows parted to reveal a face marked by age and experience. "The signs are everywhere. The lights, the disappearances. It's all part of a greater plan. The countdown has begun." We left the military base feeling disoriented. The encounter felt surreal, as if we had stepped out of a horror movie. As the car's engine roared to life, Sam glanced at me, his eyes wide. "Do you think they're really coming?" "I don't know," I admitted, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "But we need to find a way to warn people." Over the next few days, our lives became consumed with the idea of impending doom. We scoured the internet for any signs of preparation or the alert from the government, but there was nothing. The usual chatter continued: celebrity gossip, sports highlights, and the occasional UFO sighting buried under piles of distraction. "Why isn't anyone talking about this?" Sam fumed one night as we sat in our dimly lit living room, screens glowing. "It's like the world is in a daze." "We need to make them listen," I said. "We can't just sit back and wait for whatever's coming." We crafted a detailed blog post outlining our findings, the former government official's interview, and our encounter with the Oracle. I shared it across social media, hoping to reach even a handful of people who might take it seriously. It went viral overnight, and for a brief moment, it felt like we had started a movement. Comments poured in, some echoing our fears, while others mocked our theories. But the more we shared, the more the government seemed to tighten its grip on information. News articles began disappearing, and online threads discussing the alien takeover were systematically deleted. It was as if someone was actively trying to silence us. I felt a growing sense of paranoia. Every car that passed seemed to be watching us. Every shadow felt like a lurking threat. One night we received an anonymous message on our blog. "Stop what you're doing," it read. "You don't know what you're meddling with." "Do you think it's a joke?" Sam asked, anxiety creeping into his voice. "It feels too real," I replied, biting my lip. "We need to tread carefully." Despite the warnings, we pressed on. We started reaching out to more whistleblowers, those who had previously worked in the government or had insider knowledge about extraterrestrial matters. Each conversation revealed a deeper web of secrecy. Some claimed they had seen ships, while others spoke of meetings held in the dead of night to discuss potential threats. Then, one afternoon, while we were digging through old newspaper clippings in the local library, we stumbled upon a chilling article from the 1960s. It detailed a series of government cover-ups regarding UFO sightings and alleged encounters with alien beings. The article claimed that there had been attempts to communicate with these beings, but the messages were always distorted, leading to confusion and fear. "It's been going on for decades," Sam whispered, his face pale, "and now it's coming to a head." As the days ticked by, the sense of urgency became overwhelming. We began to see signs everywhere: flickering streetlights, animals acting strangely, and an unsettling number of missing person reports. Each incident felt like a piece of a larger puzzle, and we were racing against time to fit it all together. Then, exactly 1 week after our meeting with the Oracle, we received another message, "They are coming for you. You must leave now." It was unsigned, but felt like a direct threat. "We can't just run," I said, my heart pounding. "We need to gather evidence. We need to make a stand." "Evidence won't matter if we're gone," Sam replied, his voice shaking. "What if they're serious?" I hesitated, torn between my desire to expose the truth and the instinct to protect ourselves. As the countdown continued, the stakes felt impossibly high. We needed a plan. "We should go to a safe place," I suggested, thinking of my uncle who lived in the countryside. "We can regroup and figure out our next steps." Sam nodded reluctantly, and that night we packed our things and hit the road. The further we drove from the city, the heavier the atmosphere felt. It was as if the very air thickened with apprehension, and I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a black SUV tailing us. Arriving at my uncle's farm felt like a small reprieve. The sprawling fields under the moonlight were peaceful, but an unsettling quiet hung in the air. My uncle welcomed us with open arms, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the horizon. "Just a little getaway, huh?" he chuckled, oblivious to the anxiety gnawing at my insides. "Yeah, something like that," I replied, forcing a smile. As we settled into our temporary refuge, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still being watched, that the countdown continued unabated. The next few days at my uncle's farm were a strange mix of serenity and tension. The tranquility of the countryside felt like a facade, masking the growing dread we carried with us. Each night, we huddled together, exchanging theories and discussing what we had learned, while the clock ticked ominously in the background. "Do you think we'll actually see them?" Sam asked one evening as we sat outside, the stars twinkling above us. "I don't know," I replied, staring at the vast expanse of night sky. "But I can't shake the feeling that something is coming." Just as the words left my mouth, a low hum echoed across the fields, causing both of us to freeze. The sound intensified, reverberating through the ground and filling the air with an unsettling vibration. We exchanged nervous glances, and I could see fear mirrored in Sam's eyes. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, voice trembling. "Yeah," I managed to reply, adrenaline surging through me. "Let's check it out." We cautiously moved towards the source of the sound, our hearts pounding in sync. The hum grew louder, and with each step, an icy grip of fear tightened around us. As we approached the edge of the property, we spotted an eerie glow hovering above the treetops, a pulsating orb of light that seemed to defy explanation. "Is that—" Sam started, but I silenced him with a look. We both knew what it was, and as if on cue, the orb descended, illuminating the darkened landscape with an otherworldly brilliance. "Run!" I shouted, adrenaline flooding my veins. We turned and sprinted back toward the house, the oppressive hum following us like a sinister spectre. We burst through the door, slamming it shut behind us, breathless and terrified. "What was that?" Sam gasped, his face pale. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," I replied, panic setting in. "We need to get back to the city. We need to warn people." The tension between us was palpable as we hastily packed our belongings, fear driving our every movement. The hum outside grew louder, echoing through the walls, almost as if it was trying to penetrate our sanctuary. I glanced out the window and my heart dropped. There were figures moving in the glow, shadowy silhouettes darting between the trees. "We have to go," I urged, grabbing Sam's arm and pulling him toward the car. We scrambled into the vehicle, and I fumbled with the keys, hands shaking. As we sped away from the farm, I dared to look back. The orb hung in the air, illuminating the scene like a nightmarish beacon. It felt as if it was watching us, and I couldn't shake the sense that we were being hunted. Driving back into the city, the streets felt strangely empty. It was as if everyone had sensed the impending doom and chosen to stay indoors. I flicked on the radio, desperate for news, but the static crackled back at me. What's happening? Sam asked, anxiety lacing his voice. I don't know, I replied, gripping the steering wheel tighter, but we need to find a way to alert everyone. When we finally reached our apartment, we hurried inside, barricading the door behind us. The familiar surroundings felt alien now, shadows creeping in from every corner. We powered up our laptop, desperate to share our experience and the danger we felt was closing in. As we typed furiously, the screen flickered and the lights dimmed. I paused, glancing at Sam, who looked equally unnerved. Did you see that? I asked. Before he could respond, the power cut out completely, plunging us into darkness. The hum from the farm returned, louder and more intense, resonating through the walls. What the hell is going on? Sam shouted, panic rising in his voice. We need to stay calm, I insisted, though my own heart raced. Let's find some candles. As I rummaged through the kitchen, I heard a soft tapping sound coming from the living room. It was rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, and it sent a chill down my spine. Sam? I called out, my voice shaky. No response. I turned slowly, moving toward the sound, my heart pounding in my chest. With every step, the tapping grew louder, more insistent. When I reached the living room, I saw Sam standing by the window, eyes wide and filled with terror. Look, he whispered, voice trembling. I followed his gaze and my breath hitched in my throat. Outside, figures moved under the pale moonlight, dark shapes against the backdrop of the night. They were humanoid, but their movements were unnatural, jerky, almost like marionettes being controlled by unseen strings. Are they? Sam trailed off, horror written across his face. Aliens, I breathed, realization hitting me like a punch to the gut. They're here. As if sensing our fear, the figures paused, turning to face us. Their faces were obscured by shadows, but I could feel their gaze piercing through the darkness. The hum escalated, vibrating through the air, filling my head with a sense of dread. What do we do? Sam asked, backing away from the window. Get away from there, I shouted, grabbing his arm and pulling him back into the room. We need to find a weapon or something. We scrambled through the apartment, searching for anything that might give us an edge. My heart raced as the tapping sound intensified, echoing around us like a countdown. I could feel time slipping away, the weight of our impending doom bearing down on us. Then, a loud crash broke the silence, shattering the tension. I froze, fear coursing through my veins. The front door had been forced open. Panic surged through me as we stood frozen in the dimly lit living room. The unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway, each thud reverberating in my chest. Hide! I hissed, and we darted behind the couch, hearts pounding in unison. The footsteps grew closer, and I could feel the hum intensifying, vibrating through the floor. My mind raced, desperate for a plan. We need to get out of here, I whispered to Sam, who looked ghostly pale beside me. Suddenly, the front door swung open wide and a figure stepped inside. It was tall, shrouded in a dark, flowing cloak that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its face was obscured, but I could sense its presence, heavy and oppressive. What do you want? I thought, my mind screaming in fear. The figure moved with an eerie grace, gliding through the apartment as if floating above the ground. It paused, tilting its head as if listening for our breaths. I held mine, praying it wouldn't discover us. Sam, I whispered, do you think it's one of them? Before he could respond, the figure raised a hand, and suddenly the hum stopped. The silence was deafening, replaced by an unsettling stillness that wrapped around us like a thick fog. Why are they here? Sam breathed, terror etched across his face. In that moment, the figure turned, as if it had heard us. You should not be here, it said, voice smooth and melodic, yet laced with an unmistakable authority. You were warned. Who are you? I called out, mustering the courage to confront the being. It stepped closer, the air around it shifting. I am a messenger, it replied, voice echoing softly. The time has come to fulfill the pact. Pact? I echoed, confusion mixing with fear. What pact? You humans have been naive, it continued, unfurling its cloak to reveal a shimmering surface that reflected the faint light. Your leaders made a decision long ago, one that you will now pay for. What do you mean? Sam shouted, desperation seeping into his voice. The balance has shifted, the figure said, seemingly unfazed by our outbursts. Your planet is ripe for harvest. In 30 days, the transition will begin, and you will no longer exist as you do. No, I yelled, adrenaline coursing through my veins. We won't let that happen. You are powerless, the figure replied, raising its hand once more. The atmosphere shifted, and suddenly the walls seemed to pulsate with energy. You must accept your fate. Go back to wherever you came from, I screamed, fueled by a mix of fear and rage. We won't just roll over. The figure paused, a flicker of something almost resembling amusement, crossing its hidden features. You are brave, but bravery will not save you. You will either join us or be extinguished. What's the alternative? Sam asked, voice trembling but resolute. The figure's demeanor shifted. There is always a choice, it said, tone more somber. But know this, resistance is futile. Your kind has a history of fighting back, and it has only led to destruction. I exchanged a glance with Sam, who nodded slightly, as if reading my mind. We have to warn people, I blurted. If we can get the message out, maybe we can rally others against you. Your efforts are in vain, the figure replied, raising its hand again, and I felt a surge of energy course through the room. The world will not believe you. But we can try, I shouted, voice breaking. If enough people know the truth, they can prepare. You don't have to do this. The figure stepped back, considering our words. Perhaps there is a way to prove your worth, it said, lowering its hand. If you can convince others of your impending doom, you may yet survive. Then we'll do it, I replied, determination flooding my veins. We'll show the world what's coming. The figure paused, almost as if weighing its options. You have 5 days, it said finally. Fail, and the consequences will be dire. With that, the figure dissolved into shadows, leaving us alone in the room, breathless and reeling. The tension was palpable, a heavy silence lingering in the air. What do we do? Sam asked, still trembling. We spread the word, I said, voice steady despite the chaos swirling in my mind. We gather everyone we can, share our story, and prepare for what's coming. We sprang into action, fueled by adrenaline and a sense of urgency that eclipsed our fear. We reached out to anyone who would listen. Friends, family, social media. We recorded videos, made posts, and shared our experiences, hoping to create a ripple effect that would reach the masses. As the hours turned into days, we found ourselves caught in a whirlwind of reactions. Some believed us, rallying to our cause, while others mocked and dismissed us as conspiracy theorists. Each response only heightened our sense of urgency. We needed to reach more people before it was too late. In our relentless pursuit of truth, we discovered something unexpected. Several online communities dedicated to alien encounters had begun to circulate our story. Whistleblowers and others, claiming to have witnessed the truth, reached out, sharing their own experiences and evidence. But time was slipping away. Each day felt like a countdown, and I could feel the tension building. On the 5th day, we gathered in our apartment, friends and allies from the online community, joining us to strategize and prepare. We need to be ready for anything, I said, pacing the small living room. If they come for us, we need to stand our ground. What if it's not just us? One of our friends, Mia, chimed in. What if others join us? We could organize a mass gathering, bring people together to face whatever's coming. That's it, Sam exclaimed. We can organize a protest, a rally. If enough people come together, we'll show them that we won't just stand by. We quickly drafted plans using our social media platforms to invite everyone we could reach. The event was set for the night of the 30th day, a final stand against the impending invasion. As the sun set that evening, we felt a mixture of excitement and fear. Would anyone show up? Would we be able to make a difference? We gathered in the park, armed with signs and chants, prepared to voice our message to the world. As the crowd began to grow, a sense of hope surged within us. People of all ages arrived, united in their belief that something was wrong. For the first time, it felt like we were part of something bigger, a movement against an unseen enemy. Then, just as the rally began to gain momentum, the sky darkened. Clouds rolled in, swirling above like a storm brewing. A low rumble echoed through the air, and the hum we had heard before returned, growing louder, more ominous. People began to look up, fear spreading through the crowd as the lights flickered. "What's happening?" someone shouted, panic rising. "Stay calm," I urged, raising my voice. "We can't let them intimidate us." But as I spoke, a blinding flash illuminated the sky, and the ground shook beneath us. Figures began to emerge from the shadows, moving toward us in sync, their forms unmistakable against the backdrop of chaos. The crowd erupted in chaos, panic rippling through as the dark figures advanced. I felt a surge of fear wash over me, but deep down I also felt a flicker of defiance. This was our moment. We had to stand together. "Everyone, stay together," I shouted, trying to rally the people around me. "We're not alone." Sam stood beside me, his eyes wide with terror, but determination shone through. "We can't let them take us," he yelled, grabbing a sign from the ground and holding it high. "Fight back." As the figures approached, a palpable tension filled the air, and I felt the energy shift. The crowd began to chant, voices rising in unison, a primal instinct to resist awakening within us. "We are not afraid. We are not afraid." The sound echoed, reverberating against the night sky. The dark figures paused, and for a moment it felt like we had gained some power over the situation. They looked at us with a mix of curiosity and disdain, their movements unnaturally fluid. Then, without warning, one of them raised a hand, and a blinding light enveloped the area. I shielded my eyes, heart racing, as I felt the energy wash over us like a tidal wave. The chant faltered, confusion spreading through the crowd as people stumbled back, fear etched on their faces. "Fight!" I screamed, desperation clawing at my throat. "Don't let them take us." The crowd hesitated, but then, slowly we began to gather our strength again. "We won't let you take our world," I shouted, standing tall, trying to project confidence, despite the fear gnawing at me. The figures seemed to hesitate, and I seized the moment. "Look around you," I urged, pointing to the people who had come together, united in our defiance. "This is our home. We won't let you destroy it." For a brief moment, the figures seemed taken aback, their faces hidden, but their body language shifting. Then, the light intensified, and the hum grew louder, as if they were rallying their forces against us. "Don't back down!" Sam shouted, his voice carrying above the chaos. "They're trying to intimidate us." The energy surged again, and I could feel it, a force pushing against us, trying to break our resolve. But the crowd rallied, voices rising in a cacophony of defiance. "We are not afraid." As the figures advanced, I spotted the oracle among them, standing slightly apart, watching with an inscrutable expression. I locked eyes with the figure, feeling a connection, an understanding that went beyond fear. "Your time is not yet over," it said, voice calm amidst the chaos. "But you must make a choice, embrace your fate, or fight against it." I took a step forward, heart racing. "We choose to fight," I declared, voice steady. "We choose to protect our home." With those words, the crowd erupted into a frenzy, chanting louder, more determined. The figures paused, uncertainty flickering in their stance. The hum shifted, growing less menacing, as if they were taken aback by our sheer will. Then the blinding light erupted again, but this time it felt different, less oppressive, more like a wave of energy washing over us. It enveloped the figures, and for the first time they seemed to falter. "Together," I shouted, feeling the power of unity surging through me. "We can push them back." With that, we raised our arms, fists clenched, channeling our collective energy into the air. It felt like a surge of raw power, the very essence of our resolve pushing against the alien presence. The figures recoiled, the light flickering, and I could see doubt creeping into their movements. "Fight for your future," the oracle's voice echoed, urging us on. "Show them the strength of your spirit." The energy coalesced into a bright beam, piercing through the darkness, striking at the figures. The ground shook again, but this time it felt like a tremor of power, a rallying cry for humanity. "Push!" I yelled, feeling the ground beneath us tremble with energy. "We can do this!" As the light surged forth, the figures began to dissolve, their forms flickering like shadows in the light. The hum shifted again, this time fading into a distant echo. The crowd stood together, voices rising in a powerful chorus of defiance. Suddenly, the blinding light exploded outward, and I felt a rush of energy flood through us. A wave of warmth and strength washed over me, and for a moment it felt like we were one, connected, united against the darkness. As the light enveloped everything, I closed my eyes, feeling the world shift. The sound of the crowd, the fear, the uncertainty all faded away, replaced by a sense of hope and determination. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the light faded. I opened my eyes, blinking against the residual brightness, and the world around me slowly came back into focus. The figures were gone, vanished into thin air, leaving us standing together in the aftermath. The crowd erupted into cheers, a wave of relief washing over us. "We did it!" Sam shouted, pulling me into a tight embrace. "Together," I replied, breathless with exhilaration. We had fought back against the darkness, united in our resolve. But even amidst the celebration, I felt a flicker of uncertainty. The oracle's words lingered in my mind, a reminder that the battle may have been won, but the war was far from over. We had proven our strength this time, but the countdown was still ticking. As we stood in the park, surrounded by friends and allies, I realized that this was just the beginning. We had awakened something within ourselves, a spark of hope that would continue to burn bright against the encroaching darkness. And as the stars twinkled above us, I vowed to remain vigilant. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I would face them head on, standing together with those who dared to resist. For we were not just fighting for our survival. We were fighting for the very essence of what it meant to be human.